Discover the incredible transformation of a grandma. 30 years of trauma revealed. Overcome. Grandma June stood just outside her bakery, the warm scent of fresh apple pie wafting through the open door, mingling with memories of laughter and life. At 70, she carried the weight of a small-town matriarch, her heart as big as the oak trees that lined the streets of their tight-knit community. Every summer they depacked picnic baskets, fluttering with joy as they shared laughter beneath the sprawling branches. But in the quiet moments, June battled shadows, haunting reminders of loss. Her husband, a local veteran, had left her with 3 children to raise alone. Through tears and trials, June had learned resilience, pouring herself into her family, believing her love could shield them from pain. But as the bakery fell into disarray, her grandchildren, once eager to cultivate their dreams in the kitchen, began to voice thoughts that sent thunder through her heart. "Gran," they said, "we want more than this," their voices quaking with fear and hope. Tension crackled at the dinner table. Plates clattered, forks paused mid-air. "You're holding us back," they shouted. Her once adored apple pie became a bitter symbol of the dream unachieved. Regret lined the air. June's chest tightened. These weren't just her grandchildren, they were her lifeline. How could she watch them turn away? "Everything I've done is for you," she replied, her voice echoing with grief and desperation. With every harsh word exchanged, it felt like an old wound reopening, spilling out sorrow and unspoken fears. Where is the honor in a legacy anchored in loss? June's tears fell on the pie crust, blurring the sweet scent with reality as her heart wrestled against the tension. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the dust of that emotional storm began to settle, a whirlwind of deceit emerged. A friend, once a pillar in June's life, revealed a shocking connection to her late husband, igniting anger deep within her heart. The threads binding them all began to unravel as betrayal stirred up memories she had long buried. Images of joy turned to sadness, a soldier's laughter turned to mourning. As the town rallied around her, their support seemed tinged with sweet sorrow against the backdrop of betrayal. Sleepless nights left her heart aching, yet in those shadows, she felt a flicker of resolve. Healing required honesty. June gathered her family again. Through choked breaths, she vowed to share their family stories, the struggles, the joy, the love tangled with pain. It was time to confront their history and the darkness that had seeped into their lives. Would these old wounds knit them closer? Or would the truth tear them apart? As they prepared to embrace the journey ahead, a gentle hour crept in, leaving them all breathless with anticipation. The question lingered heavy in the air. Could they transform the path of their past and tide over the legacy of love against the heavy echoes of heartache? Tomorrow's challenges glimmered beyond the horizon, waiting to be faced. The morning sun peeked through the clouds, casting a warm glow over the bakery. June could feel the pulse of the day beginning, yet dread clung to her like shadows from the night before. She stood at the counter, kneading dough, her thoughts a swirl of uncertainty about the family meeting. Would her grandchildren truly be ready for the truth? The doorbell chimed, its familiar jingle piercing her somber thoughts. It was Ellie and Max, her eldest grandkids, their faces a mix of excitement and trepidation. They stepped inside, their presence a comforting reminder of the love that had always been the center of June's world. But today it felt different. Today they carried an air of expectation, as if they were on the cusp of something monumental. "Gran, we're ready to talk," Ellie said, her voice steady but trembling at the edges. Max nodded, his jaw set in determination. June's heart raced. "Are you sure?" she whispered, fear knotting her stomach. Both teenagers exchanged a knowing glance. The earlier anger had faded, replaced by an understanding that today's conversation was not just about her. It was about them. They needed to break free from the past or be bound to it forever. "Let us do this together," June said, drawing them closer. They sat around the worn kitchen table, the very table where countless memories had been shared, picnics, spills, giggles, and heart-to-heart talks. Today it felt heavy, but June began to peel back the layers. She spoke of her love for their grandfather, the laughter they shared, the war he faced, and ultimately, the void he left behind. The air grew thick with memories both bittersweet and heavy. "I thought keeping our pain hidden would protect you," she admitted, her voice thick with emotion. "But it only built walls between us." Ellie's eyes shone with tears as she reached for her brother's hand. "We didn't just want pie, Gran. We wanted to share the burden with you," she confessed. "You didn't have to bear it all alone." There was a moment of stillness, the kind that stretched into eternity. June felt a warmth round her heart. This was the first time they could see through each other's fears, a glimpse of vulnerability that connected them all like veins in a leaf. It was a relief yet terrifying, like standing on the edge of a cliff, ready to jump. As the conversation unfolded, they began weaving stories together, each revelation a thread in a vibrant tapestry. June revealed that the betrayal she faced was not solely her burden. It was an echo of the choices they all had made over the years. But just as they started to find harmony in their shared history, a sudden knock on the door broke the moment, shattering their fragile peace. Who could that be? June mused, a shadow passing over her hope. She opened the door to find someone from the past, someone who held more secrets than she ever knew, someone who would challenge everything she had just begun to mend. "June," the figure began, tentatively stepping forward with an unreadable expression. "We need to talk about your husband." June's heart seized. All the progress she felt threatened to unravel once more. Who was this person, and what could they possibly reveal? As they exchanged glances filled with dread and hope, she knew they would have to face whatever storm came next together. But would this new revelation bring the family closer? Or would it pull them apart all over again? The uncertainty loomed, electrifying the air. What more could there be? June whispered to herself, paralyzing anticipation clawing at her heart. The figure stood hesitantly in the doorway, the light from the kitchen spilling around them like an invitation or perhaps a warning. June squinted, her heart pounding painfully in her chest. She could barely make out the features, but there was an unmistakable familiarity. It was a face she hadn't seen in decades, a ghost from a past she thought she had left behind. "Who are you?" June demanded, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside her. "What do you want?" The stranger cleared their throat, stepping into the warmth of the bakery. "It's me, June, it's Tom." At the sound of that name, a tidal wave of memories crashed over her, laughter shared over coffee, dreams spoken late at night, the weight of love that once anchored her heart. But beneath those gentle echoes lay the sharp contrast of betrayal and loss. June's breath caught, her mind racing. "Tom?" Ellie and Max looked between their grandmother and the newcomer, confusion etched on their faces. They were caught in a web of emotions, unable to comprehend the significance. "Why are you here?" June managed, her resolve beginning to fray. "After all these years I had to come, but it's complicated," Tom said, his eyes darting to the grandchildren. "I didn't come to upset you, but there's something you should know. Something important about your husband." June felt the walls of her world shifting, threatening to crumble. "He is gone. What could possibly change that?" Tom took a deep breath, the weight of his words hanging heavily in the air. "There are things you didn't know. Secrets he took with him. I buried them too, but it's time to unearth them. You and the kids deserve the truth. It's about who he was and why he did what he did." Anger flared within June like a fire igniting in her belly. "You think now is the right time? After all the pain you've caused?" She glanced at Ellie and Max, wanting to shield them from the ripples of this unexpected storm. Ellie, sensing the tension, squeezed Max's hand. "Gran, what did he mean? What can he tell us?" June felt the tight grip of her heartache clashing with the love she held for her grandchildren. She didn't want them ensnared in this web, but deep down, she knew they deserved to hear whatever truth was buried beneath the lies. "Please let us just sit down," Tom said, his voice low and pleading. He glanced at the three of them, his eyes filled with an emotion June couldn't quite read. There's a story that's been waiting to be told for too long. The bakery felt charged, like the calm before an emotional storm. June's mind swung back and forth. Truth could bring healing, but it might also tear open old wounds. "Fine," she said, inching back toward the kitchen table, a lifetime of memories and unresolved grief swirling around them like specters. "But if you say anything that hurts them," she couldn't finish the thought, worried about the consequences of this conversation. As they settled around the table once more, June felt a mixture of dread and anticipation. Here they were, on the precipice of discovery, each holding their breath, teetering on the edge of a revelation that could change everything. "What is it?" June asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "What are you going to say?" Tom took a moment, his eyes darting between June and her grandchildren, and June could almost feel the weight of the truth pressing against her chest, ready to explode. Would it ultimately bind them or shatter them apart once again? "June," he began, his voice thick with the gravity of what was to come. "You need to know about the man you thought you knew." But just as the truth began to unfurl like a new day breaking on the horizon, another knock echoed through the bakery. It was sharp, intrusive, threatening to disrupt this fragile moment once more. "Not again," June murmured, dread pooling in her stomach. As she rose to answer the door again, she couldn't shake the feeling that whatever awaited them outside could either deepen their wounds or begin the healing they so desperately sought. Who else would come knocking on her door, ready to expose more secrets? And how much more could her heart take before it shattered into irreparable pieces? June reached for the door handle, her body tense, every part of her instinctively wanting to retreat. She took a deep breath, mustering whatever strength remained, and forced herself to open it. Standing there was a woman, her face drawn and pale, eyes wide with panic. "June," she gasped, breathless. "I'm sorry to barge in like this. Please, I need your help." The woman looked familiar, and yet, in the haze of emotions flooding her mind, June couldn't place her. "Who are you?" June asked, her voice more curt than she'd intended. "I'm Claire." She paused, wiping a tear away. "I knew your husband. I think he's in trouble." The air crackled with uncertainty and unease. Behind her, Tom's expression shifted from worry to dread, and June's heart thumped in response. "What do you mean, trouble?" The words slipped out, laced with protective instinct. "Something happened, something he was involved in. I thought I could get away from it, but now it seems like it's catching up with me. And I think it could affect you too." Claire looked at the children, her face tightening. "I never meant for any of this to reach you." June's mind raced. Was it possible her husband had left more than just his love behind? Had he brought danger into their lives, even in death? Tom stepped forward, his face pale. "Claire, how do you know this?" "I worked with him. He was a good man, but he got mixed up in something." That she choked on the words, shaking her head. "He didn't tell you the truth, June. There were things he was protecting you from." June's emotions twisted like a knife in her chest. "Protecting?" she echoed, bitterness creeping into her voice. "Or hiding?" "Both, I think," Claire admitted, her eyes pleading. "He was trying to shield you from the consequences of his choices, and he failed. I thought I could protect you, but it's too late." The weight of Claire's words pressed heavily on June. It felt like the ground was shifting beneath her. Tom looked at June, his eyes softening in understanding, yet burdened with the knowledge he'll have to share. "What does this mean for us?" Ellie's voice quivered, the reality of a storm looming in the air. "Gran, what is happening?" June's heart ached. She wanted to shield them from this chaos, but deep down, she realized the truth might be the only thing that could set them free. I don't know yet, Ellie," she admitted, her voice cracking. "Just tell us what we need to know," Max said, his tone steady, mirroring the resolve she wished she could express. Tom took a shaky breath. "Claire, we need to talk. We need all the pieces. We can't afford to keep secrets anymore, not if it means you are at risk too." The tension coiled tight in the air, and June's pulse raced. They were on the brink of discovering the truth about the man she loved, the man who had hidden shadows in his heart. Was it possible that these revelations could unite them, or would they plunge them deeper into despair? As Tom and Claire began to talk, June felt a flicker of hope flicker in her chest. Could this lead to a path of healing for her and her family? Or would it unravel everything she thought she held together? Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the back of the bakery. June's heart sank, the dread bubbling to the surface once more. What now? What could possibly await them next? June's heart raced, a cold shiver creeping down her spine. She turned toward the sound, instinctively clutching at Ellie's hand. The bakery, normally a safe space filled with the familiar scents of cinnamon and baked bread, suddenly felt foreign and menacing. "Stay here," Tom said, his voice firm as he moved toward the back of the shop, where the noise had erupted. Claire hesitated, glancing back at June, eyes wide with fear. I have to tell you everything," Claire stammered, her breaths quickening. He was investigating something unsafe, something dangerous. There were people involved who don't play by the rules, and if they think he's talked, her voice broke, and she seemed to shrink inward. June's stomach twisted. Investigating? About what? What does this have to do with us? Each question felt like a weight in her chest, pulling her deeper into the uncertainty that loomed over her family. The company he worked for, they were involved in something corrupt. I tried to get him out, but he wouldn't listen. He thought he could protect you. But whoever's after him won't stop just because he's gone. Claire's eyes shimmered with tears, the truth crashing in waves around them. No, June shook her head, disbelief flooding her. He wouldn't, he promised. But the weight of her husband's hidden life pressed down on her. A reality that shattered the image of the man she had loved. A voice grunted from the back of the bakery, a sound that snapped June back into the present. Tom's voice broke through the tense air. Hey, who's back there? June's heart pounded in her chest as she faced Claire, who was now as frightened as she was. What if someone's come to look for him? What if they find us? June! Tom's voice shouted again, this time with urgency. Get the kids and go. In that moment the world seemed to collapse. She could hear the boys calling out from the front, panicked and lost in confusion. Ellie tugged at her sleeve. What's happening, Gran? I'm scared. June pulled Ellie close, the warmth of her small hand temporary comfort amid the chaos. It's okay, sweetheart. But her voice faltered as more crashing sounds echoed through the bakery, louder now. Felt like a warning. Come on. July pushed Tom as he re-entered the room, his face a mask of pure determination and worry. We need to get out now. Without another moment to lose, they moved toward the front. Max grabbed a nearby broom and held it like a weapon, ready to defend them as they hurried through the small aisles of pastries and flour. Claire stumbled, and June reached out to steady her. Let me go first, Claire insisted, desperation cutting through her. I know the back way. I can guide you. June bit her lip, debating the risks. But there was no time. Okay, let us go. They broke toward the rear, Claire leading them through the narrow passageway at the back of the bakery. The air felt thick with unspoken fears, and June couldn't help but glance back toward the front display, expecting the worst as Claire pushed open a door at the end of the corridor. A sharp gasp escaped her lips. Oh no, they're here. Figures loomed outside, shadows now lining the bakery's entrance, and the real danger had finally arrived. There was nowhere left to hide. What would they do now? Would they confront this threat head-on, or find a way to escape into the unknown? June's breath hitched in her throat as she peeked out the door. The shadows looked ominous, shifting like hungry ghosts in the dim light. She turned back to Claire. We have to move faster. What if they? Claire's face was pale, but determination flickered in her eyes. Follow me, stay close. We can make it to the alley behind the bakery. It's not far. The sound of heavy footsteps echoed in the distance, making June's heart race. She clutched Ellie tighter, feeling the little girl tremble against her side. It's going to be okay, June whispered, trying to sound brave. But doubt gnawed at her. Max, get ready with that broom. If anyone comes after us, Tom began to instruct, but Claire cut in. Let us just go. We don't have time for anything else, she urged, moving through the door into the alley, beckoning them forward with a quick hand motion. They spilled into the narrow space, sunlight hitting them like a warm embrace, but it felt so wrong beneath the looming threat. June glanced back at the bakery, her heart clenching. The place that was once a sanctuary now felt like a trap. Here in the alley, the scents were different, faintly rancid, mingled with the remnants of fresh pastries that lingered too long in the air. Claire hurried ahead, her eyes darting around for any signs of danger. Is there a plan? July asked, glancing at Tom, uncertainty flickering like a candle in the wind. We just keep moving, Tom replied, his own voice tinged with urgency. Find a place to hide until we know it's safe. June felt the weight of the situation. What was she supposed to do? Monday mornings weren't supposed to involve running from shadows. They should be about baking croissants and sipping coffee, not this desperate flight through an alley with fear gripping her heart. They turned a corner, running towards the street. At the end of the alley, July suddenly stopped. A small figure stood before them, an old man with a weathered face, carrying a sack full of what looked like discarded bread. Please help us, June blurted out as his brows furrowed. What's going on? He asked, scanning the alley behind them. There are people after us, Claire added breathlessly. We need to hide. The man looked to the right and to the left, as if weighing his options. Finally, he gestured them to follow him into a small doorway beside him. Quick! They clambered in, the smell of stale bread filling the air. The man ushered them into a small room that barely fit all of them. Stay quiet, he warned, his voice tense. June pressed Ellie against her side as they huddled together, the darkness closing in around them. Every creak of the building seemed to amplify the tension. She could feel the heartbeat of her family against her, each thud reminding her of everything they had at stake. What if they find us? Max whispered, gripping the broom tightly like a shield. I won't let them, Tom said fiercely, but even his voice wavered. Suddenly, there was a loud bang from outside. June flinched, unconsciously tightening her grip on Ellie. They were exposed, vulnerable, and the stakes had never felt higher. As she glanced at Claire, she realized just how much was at risk. Not just her own safety, but the truth about her husband, the life they had built together. Secrets were tumbling down like bricks in a crumbling wall, and the fear of losing everything coiled tighter around her heart. What could she do? How could she protect them all when the very roots of their lives were starting to unravel? And just as a terrifying silence fell over the room, ready to crush them, June felt an unexpected surge of hope. Maybe they could expose the shadows after all, but was she ready to face the darkness waiting for them? A thud echoed outside, one she recognized. It wasn't just a passing threat. They were here for a reason and she had to find out why. Would she step into the light or stay hidden in the shadows? The thud at the door shattered the silence, and June's heart raced even faster. She dared to hope that maybe it was just a stray animal, something harmless. But then another sound broke through. Shouted voices filled the alley, harsh and demanding, sending chills down her spine. Search everywhere. They can't be far. The words roared like a storm, and June's grip on Ellie tightened instinctively. The little girl's eyes were wide, brimming with confusion and fear. Please, the old man hissed. Keep your heads down. They have been looking for the three of you. 3 of you. Those words struck June like a cold wave of dread. What did he know? Were they really after her family? Or was this about something much larger? Why would they want us? She whispered, barely able to contain the panic creeping into her voice. The old man shrugged, his eyes darkening. People don't chase shadows unless there's something deeper. I've seen too much in my days. Claire glanced at June, her brow furrowed. We can't just sit here, she implored, her voice barely above a whisper. We need to find a way out. We have to figure out what's going on. Tom, pale with worry, nodded. If they're looking for us, we have to be prepared. Ellie needs to stay safe, June. You know that. Ellie, clutching her mother's shirt, whispered, Mommy, I'm scared. June leaned down, brushing the hair from Ellie's face. I know, sweetheart. I promise I won't let anything happen to you. But inside, she felt a swell of fear and uncertainty. The voices outside grew louder, mingling with the sound of footsteps approaching. June felt her heart sink. They had to move, and they had to move now. Okay, she said, trying to carve out a sound of authority while her heart raced. We slip out the back. The old man led them to a narrow door at the back of the room. June could feel the weight of her family behind her, Max's tangled brow, Claire's steady breath, and Ellie's terrified grip pushing her forward with the need to protect them. Stay close and follow my lead, the old man instructed. He pushed the door open just enough for them to slip through, revealing another dim-lit alley that smelled even more pungent than the first, a reminder of the desperation surrounding them. In the new alley, they crouched low, becoming shadows themselves. June peered around the corner, spotting a group of thugs searching, their faces twisted in determination. They're right there. She pointed, her voice trembling slightly. What do we do? Claire's resolve shone through the fear. We can't hesitate now. We need to circle back to the main street, blend in with the crowd. Max took a deep breath, the weight of the broom still firmly in his grip. He looked over at Claire. What if they see us? June's mind raced. Could they count on the safety of the bustling streets? A clang echoed again, more pronounced than before, filling the air with dread. Heart-pounding, she made her choice. On 3 we run for it. 1, 2. Before she could say 3, a scream pierced the air. It was guttural, full of panic, the kind that froze the blood in her veins. What was that? Tom whispered, eyes wide. I don't know, Claire breathed. But we have to go now. April breezed through the alley, and with every step, the world grew heavier, as if the shadows were reaching out to trap them. But June wouldn't let that happen. She felt the strength of her family behind her and realized that whatever danger lurked ahead was not nearly as threatening as the fear of losing them. Would they find sanctuary or further danger? With a final glance back at the old man, she took a deep breath and tore away from the shadows as they sped into the open street. June's thoughts swirled with uncertainty and hope. Would they find answers to the chaos that followed them? Would the truth set them free, or hurt them beyond repair? And as they emerged into the crowd bustling like a heartbeat around them, one thought knotted in June's chest. How deeply would they have to dive into the darkness to grasp the light? June pushed through the crowd, her heart pounding like a drum. People rushed past, bundled in their coats, oblivious to the storm of fear that raged within her. With Ellie tucked tight against her side, she felt a protective instinct flame to life. Claire and Max flanked her, their faces etched with worry, but their determination held strong. "Stay close, everyone," she whispered, glancing over her shoulder. The thugs were nowhere to be seen yet, but the scream still haunted her thoughts, a chilling reminder that danger could be just around the corner. The street was alive with noise, laughter intermingling with shouts of merchants hawking their wares. But amidst the chaos, June felt an unsettling disconnect. The vibrancy around her felt suffocating instead of comforting. She needed to focus to find safety, or at least a place to breathe and regroup. "What do we do now?" Max asked, his voice low and anxious as they moved toward a narrow alley that led to a quieter street. "We can't go far," Claire said, scanning the surroundings. "We should find a place to hide. Somewhere they want to look." June nodded, her eyes darting over the options. She spotted an old bookstore nestled between a bakery and a cafe. This could make sense. Books might offer a refuge, and the cozy chaos of a shop could obscure them from prying eyes. "Let us try there," she said, leading the way. As they slipped into the dim interior, the smell of aged paper soothed her senses for just a moment. June held a finger to her lips, and the family fell silent. The bookstore was quiet save for the faint rustle of pages turning, giving them a moment of peace in an otherwise stormy night. Whispers filled the air from a couple tucked in a far corner. June spotted a man behind the counter, his sharp eyes watching but not alarming. He looked like he had seen more than a few secrets in his time, a guardian of sorts. "Can you help us?" June asked, her voice just above a whisper as she approached him. His eyes narrowed slightly. "That depends," he replied. "What kind of trouble are you in?" But before June could respond, the scuffle of boots echoed from the street. Her stomach dropped. The thugs could be here any moment. She glanced back at her family. Ellie was clinging tightly to Claire, who was biting her lip, and Max stood taut with fear. "Don't say a word," she instructed the man, her voice shaking. "We need to hide." He seemed to weigh his options but then nodded. "Follow me." He led them to a small space behind a series of bookshelves, obscured from view. They huddled together, the darkness wrapping around them like a quilt, and for a second June could almost forget their dire situation. "It'll be okay," she murmured to Ellie, whose eyes were wide and glistening with tears. "But Mommy," Ellie whimpered, "what if they find us?" June's heart tightened. How could she reassure her when she felt the same fear gnawing at her? "I promise, Ellie. You're safe with us. We'll find a way out." But as the footsteps grew louder, the atmosphere became heavy, almost oppressive. June's breath quickened. Would they actually find safety here? Or would their escape only lead to a deeper pit of despair? The voices outside drew closer, and the world began to spin around her. June squeezed her family's hands, the reality of their situation crashing down on her. They had run, but would they ever truly be free? And just when things couldn't seem more desperate, the bookstore's door flung open. A familiar figure walked in, one who could change everything. But June's heart raced with the question that clawed at her. Could they trust him? The figure stepped inside, shaking off the rain from his coat as the door creaked shut behind him. June's pulse raced. It was David, her brother. The last time she'd seen him was during a family dinner that had spiraled into chaos. They had differences, yes, but in that moment any family tie felt like a lifeline. "June." David's voice cut through the air, laced with surprise. He squinted against the dim light, searching for her. She stepped forward, her heart pounding louder with every second. "David, what are you doing here?" The words spilled from her lips, gratitude battling with anxiety. I was looking for you. I heard what happened. Is everyone okay? Before she could answer, the footsteps outside faltered, then stopped altogether. Her stomach twisted. The thugs were right outside, arguing over who would go in first. We need to move, Claire whispered, her eyes darting to Max and Ellie. They could come in any second. David's expression hardened. Can we get out through the back? I parked close by. Not while they're out there, June said, feeling panic rise. What if they see us? Then let us hide. I'll create a distraction. David's voice took on an urgent tone, his confidence almost infectious. In that moment, he looked like the brother she had always admired, the protector. Claire shook her head. Are you insane? You can't go out there alone. I won't let them find you, he insisted, grasping June's arms. Promise. Just trust me. June felt her breath hitch. Could she really put her faith in him after all this time? What if he got caught? I don't want to lose you, she exclaimed, her voice breaking. After everything, I can't. But there was no time. The thugs were growing restless outside. David cast a long look at June, and in that instant, she felt the weight of their shared past. They had shared laughter, pain, and everything in between. But the distance of years had created walls, and now, as they teetered on the edge of danger, she wondered just how deep those walls ran. Take care of them. I'll be back, he said, turning toward the door. There was a fierceness in his eyes, and a part of June wanted to chase after him, to pull him back and refuse to let him be the hero. Then, just as David opened the door, it swung back violently. A figure loomed in the entryway, one of the thugs, eyes burning with aggression. Anyone in here? He barked, stepping inside, followed by another man. June's heart raced as she took her family's hands tightly in hers, pulling them closer together, the fear clawing at her throat. We can't let them find us, June whispered urgently, pushing them further back into the shadows where they were hidden. David froze, glancing back at her with a determination that sent chills down her spine. The thug moved deeper into the store, scanning the dim corners. A moment of silence hung in the air, thick and suffocating. Then June heard the unmistakable sound of another door being forced open, this time to the back of the store. They're in here somewhere. Check every inch. We need to go, Max whispered, terror etched on his face. But June knew they were running out of time. Would David sacrifice himself for their safety? The sharp, cold edge of dread bit down as the thug drew closer. June's mind raced. They had to make a choice, to stay hidden and hope for the best, or risk it all on a desperate escape. Just then, David took a step forward, ready to act. Wait! June's voice rang out. Was she too late to stop him? A sudden violent crash echoed through the bookstore, as books flew off the shelves. In that chaos, June realized they were stepping into the unknown, and she had no idea what awaited them on the other side. Would David's courage be their beacon? Or would it lead them all into the darkness? The choice hung heavy in the air, and June's resolve solidified. They had to fight for their freedom, whatever the cost. But something was shifting within her, a flicker of hope. As she stole a glance over her shoulder, David was already in motion. Time to go, he shouted, a fire igniting in his voice. But could they trust him now? With the thugs advancing, they had no time to ponder, and her heart raced for what would come next. Would they all make it out? Would David prove himself to be more than just a memory from the past? June's grip on her family tightened, and the raw truth sank in. Sometimes the only way to find your way home was to navigate through the shadows. June's heart pounded as she watched David disappear into the chaos of the store. Her stomach twisted with fear, but also with a profound realization this wasn't the time to let regret anchor her down. The wind of change was howling outside, and she had to summon every last ounce of courage to face it. The thugs were closing in, their voices a threatening promise that sent ice down her spine. Stay quiet, she whispered fiercely, clutching Ellie and pulling Max closer. She could feel their quickened breaths against her side, the fear palpable in the hot, tense air. Then, just as her heart felt like it might shatter, the door swung open. David burst back in, panting but alive. This way, he shouted, urgency commanding his voice. I created a distraction, I got them away from the front. But we have to move now. June felt a rush of relief flood her, pushing through the fear like light piercing dark clouds. Let us go. she urged, taking Ellie's small hand in hers. They were all together again, David, Claire, Max, and Ellie. This was her family, and no matter the shadows that loomed, love was their fiercest weapon. As they darted through the bookstore to the back exit, a loud shout erupted from behind them. "They're here! Get them!" There was no turning back now. The weight of their past, the burden of secrets, the impending danger, all stitched together a tapestry of resilience. They burst into the back alley, the cool air rushing against their faces, invigorating yet anxious. "Head to the car, I'll shield the back," David shouted as he pushed them ahead. The resolve in his voice caught June off guard. He was taking charge, willing to face the rising tide alone so she and the kids could escape. "David," June cried, catching his arm. "You don't have to do this." "Yes, I do," he replied, his expression fierce but softened with care. "It's time to reclaim our family, not just run from it. I'll be right behind you." With one last glance, June nodded, clenching Ellie's hand firmer. They pivoted, sprinting toward the car parked just down the street, its color dimmed by shadows but still a beacon of hope waiting for them. Tom and Claire followed, footsteps echoing as adrenaline surged through them. "Get in," June urged, fumbling with her keys as her heart raced. With everyone piled into the cramped back seat, she turned the ignition. The engine roared to life. June's hands gripped the wheel. She steadied her breath. "We can do this," she whispered to herself. "We're getting through this together." Outside, David was still creating distractions, drawing attention from the thugs like a lit firecracker. "Hurry! Now!" June shouted, panic clawing at her throat. Just as she shifted into gear, a loud bang echoed from the alley. The thugs had gotten out, and they were attacking with a surge of determination. She pressed down on the gas, the car lurching forward, out of the alley and onto the street. Adrenaline buzzed through her, grounding her even as she glanced in the rearview mirror to see David dodging chaos, holding his own against the impending storm. They tore away from the scene, the weight of their escape feeling both like liberation and turmoil. The kids huddled together in the back, wide-eyed and breathing hard. June's heart ached with the knowledge of how close they had come to losing everything. How many secrets still lay in wait. "We're safe," June reassured them, even as doubt gnawed at her. But in that moment it did feel like they were. Just beyond the horizon of despair lay a chance to begin healing, to allow their family to confront the truth together. After a few winding turns, they finally pulled over. The sun was setting, casting a warm golden glow over everything. As the adrenaline began to fade and reality set in, June turned to her family. "We have a lot to talk about," she said softly, tears glossing her eyes. "But we'll face it together, no more secrets." One by one, each family member nodded. Ellie's tiny hand curled into June's, providing a fragile yet hopeful connection. They leaned on one another, united now more than ever. In that moment, June could almost feel the chains of loss loosening their grip. The shadows of betrayal slowly shifted into light, revealing paths of understanding and connection. Back in the car, they had escaped, but the journey wasn't complete. Still ahead lay the discovery of truths long buried about her husband, about love, and about the strength it takes to heal. As they looked out into the fading sunset together, June felt the warmth of hope wrap around them like a tender embrace, and no longer were they just running from shadows. They were ready to uncover their story, knit the layers of love and pain, and rise from it all anew. With each step. As they drove forward into the unknown, June could finally breathe. This was not the end, it was the bold beginning of their collective healing. This was transformation, resilience, and love crafted from the ashes of their trials. And she knew through it all they would never stand alone. Now I urge you, don't let this moment slip away. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help us keep sharing these journeys. Comment below your reactions and feelings about this ending. You have a voice. Let it be heard. And please, share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. It's time to spread hope and healing like wildfire. This is the moment to show your support. Every action counts. Don't wait not even one more second.